Yeah, it's definitely dangerous temperatures today, but
Right to feel a lot like summer when the first pitch in baseball's Fall Classic is thrown this evening in Los Angeles. It'll be about 99 degrees when the LA Dodgers host the Houston Astros in Game 1.
Heat is on in the Bay Area. Good morning. It is Thursday, August 31st. I'm Kenny Choi.
And I'm Michelle Griego. Time now is 6:30.
Start of a heat wave, and it's about to get really hot in Southern California, Pat.
That's right, Jeff. Our Tina Patel is live.
It's going to sizzle today as temperatures are expected to hit triple digits in some areas. CBS 2's Jasmine Veal is live in Santa Clarita.
Well, it is going to be a scorcher, and we could even see records shattered, as Craig mentioned. Some areas already starting to get hot. KCAL 9's Joy Benedict is live for us this morning in chat.
The dangerous heat is in the Bay Area. Let's take a live look outside at the Bay Bridge this morning and look at those temperatures right now. Netta Iranpour is
Redlands out in the Inland Empire. They joined the triple-digit club, as did a lot of places in the Southland. As temperatures soared over 100 degrees, a lot of areas around here. Folks are doing what they can.
Climate change, once considered an issue for a long-distant future, has moved firmly into the present. Corn producers in Iowa, oyster growers in Washington state, and maple syrup producers in Vermont are all observing climate-related changes that are outside of recent experience. So too are coastal planners in Florida, water managers in the arid Southwest, city dwellers from Phoenix to New York, and native peoples on tribal lands from Louisiana to Alaska. This national climate assessment concludes that the evidence of human-induced climate change continues to strengthen and that impacts are increasing across the country. Americans are noticing changes all around them. Summers are longer and hotter, and extended periods of unusual heat last longer than any living American has ever experienced. Winters are generally shorter and warmer. Rain comes in heavier downpours. People are seeing changes in the length and severity of seasonal allergies, the plant varieties that thrive in their gardens, and the kinds of birds they see in particular month and their neighborhoods. Other changes are even more drastic. Residents of some coastal cities see their streets flood more regularly during storms and high tides. Inland cities near large rivers also experience more flooding, especially in the Midwest and Northeast. Insurance rates are rising in some vulnerable locations, and insurance is no longer available in others. Hotter and drier weather and earlier snowmelt mean that wildfires in the West start earlier in the spring, last later into the fall, and burn more acreage. Multiple lines of independent evidence confirm that human activities are the primary cause of the global warming of the past 50 years. The burning of coal, oil, and gas, and clearing of forests have increased the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by more than 40% since the Industrial Revolution. In the Northeast, communities are affected by heat waves, more extreme precipitation events, and coastal flooding due to sea level rise and storm surge. In the Southeast and Caribbean, decreased water availability, exacerbated by population growth and land use change, causes increased competition for water. There are increased risks associated with extreme events such as hurricanes. In the Midwest, longer growing seasons and rising carbon dioxide levels increase yields of some crops, although these benefits have already been offset in some instances by occurrence of extreme events such as heat waves, droughts, and floods. In the Great Plains, rising temperatures lead to increased demand for water and energy and impacts on agricultural practices. In the Southwest, drought and increased warming foster wildfires and increased competition for scarce water resources for people and ecosystems, while in the Northwest, changes in the timing of stream flow related to earlier snowmelt reduce the supply of water in summer, causing far-reaching ecological and socioeconomic consequences. In Alaska, rapidly receding summer sea ice, shrinking glaciers, and thawing permafrost cause damage to infrastructure and major changes to ecosystems. Impacts to Alaska Native communities increase. In Hawaii and the Pacific Islands, increasingly constrained freshwater supplies coupled with increased temperatures, stress both people and ecosystems and decrease food and water security. On the coasts, coastal lifelines such as water supply infrastructure and evacuation routes are increasingly vulnerable to higher sea levels and storm surges, inland flooding, and other climate-related changes. And finally, in the oceans, that are currently absorbing about a quarter of human-caused carbon dioxide emissions to the atmosphere and over 90% of the heat associated with global warming, leading to ocean acidification and the alteration of marine ecosystems. Sectors affected by climate changes include agriculture, water, human health, energy, and transportation. Climate change has the potential to both positively and negatively affect the location, timing, and productivity of crop, livestock, and fishery systems at local, national, and global scales. The United States produces nearly $330 billion per year in agricultural commodities. This productivity is vulnerable to direct impacts on crops and livestock from changing climate conditions and extreme weather events, and indirect impacts through increasing pressures from pests and pathogens. Climate change will also alter the stability of food supplies and create new food security challenges for the United States as the world seeks to feed 9 billion people by 2050. While the agriculture sector has proven to be adaptable to a range of stresses, as evidenced by continued growth in production and efficiency across the United States, climate change poses a new set of challenges. Water quality and quantity are being affected by climate change. Changes in precipitation and runoff, combined with changes in consumption and withdrawal, have reduced surface and groundwater supplies in many areas. These trends are expected to continue, increasing the likelihood of water shortages for many users. Water quality is also diminishing in many areas, particularly due to sediment and contaminant concentrations after heavy downpours. Sea levels rise, storms and storm surges, and changes in surface and groundwater use patterns are expected to comprise the sustainability of coastal freshwater aquifers and wetlands. In most U.S. regions, water resources managers and planners will encounter new risks, vulnerabilities, and opportunities that may not be properly managed with existing practices. Climate change affects human health in many ways. For example, increasingly frequent and intense heat waves lead to more heat-related illnesses and deaths, and over time worsen drought and wildfire risks and intensify air pollution. Increasingly frequent extreme precipitation and associated flooding can lead to injuries and increase in waterborne disease. Rising sea surface temperatures have been linked with increasing levels and ranges of diseases. Rising sea levels intensify coastal flooding and storm surge, and thus exacerbate threats to public safety during storms. Certain groups of people are more vulnerable to the range of climate change-related health impacts, including the elderly, children, the poor, and the sick. Others are vulnerable because of where they live, including those in floodplains, coastal zones, and some urban areas. Improving and properly supporting the public health infrastructure will be critical to managing the potential health impacts of climate change. In summary, global climate is changing, and this is apparent across the United States in a wide range of observations. The global warming of the past 50 years is primarily due to human activities, predominantly the burning of fossil fuels. Some extreme weather and climate events have increased in recent decades, and new and stronger evidence confirms that some of these increases are related to human activities. Human-induced climate change is projected to continue, and it will accelerate significantly if global emissions of heat-trapping gases continues to increase. Impacts related to climate change are already evident in many sectors and are expected to become increasingly disruptive across the nation throughout this century and beyond. Climate change threatens human health and well-being in many ways, including through more extreme weather events and wildfire, decreased air quality, and diseases transmitted by insects, food, and water. Infrastructure is being damaged by sea level rise, heavy downpours, and extreme heat. Damages are projected to increase with continued climate change. Water quality and water supply reliability are jeopardized by climate change in a variety of ways that affect ecosystems and livelihoods. Climate disruptions to agriculture have been increasing and are projected to become more severe over this century. Climate change poses particular threats to Indigenous peoples' health, well-being, and ways of life. Ecosystems and the benefits they provide to society are being affected by climate change. The capacity of ecosystems to buffer the impacts of extreme events like fires, floods, and severe storms is being overwhelmed. Ocean waters are becoming warmer and more acidic, broadly affecting ocean circulation, chemistry, ecosystems, and marine life. Planning for adaptation and mitigation is becoming more widespread, but current implementation efforts are insufficient to avoid increasingly negative social, environmental, and economic consequences.